Kia ora koutou, and welcome to our NDF online session, AI Ambassadors, Learning Through Practical Experimentation, with our fantastic presenter, Jeff Williams. My name is Nick Sededicato. I'm the digital specialist at the Cultural Experiences team in New Plymouth District Council. I'm also an NDF board member and your host today. Before we hand over to Jeff, just a few notes. Please keep yourself muted and your cameras off so we can focus on the speaker. We're recording the session today, and you'll have a chance to review this. We're going to share a link probably in the next few days via email. And also, if you have any questions or comments, we've got the chat open, so we'll try to leave some room at the end, sometime at the end, to answer questions. But let me introduce our speaker. We are super excited to welcome Jeff Williams as our presenter today. Jeff brings over 20 years of experience in technology, including a decade as a leader in the arts and culture sector. He's a former NASA software engineer, and he has guided organizations through transformative projects, including major capital initiatives, digital transformation, and the adoption of emerging technologies. In 2020, as Director of Technology and Operations, Jeff led the successful opening of Planet Word, an experiential museum in Washington, D.C. Jeff is now serving as Head of Technology at ACMI in Melbourne, and he shapes organization-wide technology strategies, advances systems across all departments, and spearheads AI initiatives that drive education, experimentation, and innovative applications of machine learning in cultural operations and products. And now, without any more from me, I'll hand over to Jeff, and I'm going to disappear, and I'll see you at the end for some questions.
Thanks, Nick. Good morning. Before I get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from where I am presenting and from where you are joining. I pay my respects to elders past and present and future First Nations people from all lands that are joining us today. I'm Jeff Williams, ACMI's Head of Technology, and today I'm here to discuss ACMI's Education and Adoption Program, AI Ambassadors. During my talk today, I'll be drawing from ACMI's journey with AI, focusing on the initiative aimed at educating staff to demystify the technology and build a foundation that enables them to work more effectively and use these new tools ethically. I will also outline the principles driving ACMI's AI initiative. I'll be using the term AI a lot today, and as there are many types of AI and a long history of AI-related research and tools, I'll define it up front as modern, post-ChatGPT, large language model-based machine learning tools. Even that definition explanation is a lot, so let's just go ahead and say this is generative AI or Gen AI tools, which create outputs such as text and images from text-based inputs. These tools are built off training from very large data sets, including books, web page, images, etc. And most of these training sets are not open, meaning that exact training data is not openly shared. From December 2022 to January 2023, the number of users on ChatGPT increased from 1 million to 100 million. Around that time, we also saw emergence of modern Gen AI tools, making text-to-image tools become widely available, such as DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, to name a few. It was very hard to ignore AI at ACMI from late 2022. And why would ACMI ignore AI? Internally, many view AI as part of ACMI's remit. ACMI, Australian Centre for the Moving Image, is a museum in Melbourne which exhibits, collects, and programs films, TV, video games, and art. AI is directly linked to ACMI's mission to engage with the latest forms of media. ACMI is a trusted technology-forward institution that is leading AI innovation and experimentation by example. Gen AI is directly related to many mediums in our remit, and while AI is certainly receiving a lot of attention at the moment, ACMI's real focus is on emerging technologies, not AI. In 2023, ACMI exhibited Mimo Akin's Distributed Consciousness. Mimo's work is equal parts AI and blockchain, and leading up to that exhibition and following the mass popularization of AI, it became very clear that an organizational-wide program to educate all staff on AI was necessary. Also in 2023, we released our first AI product to demonstrate its capabilities both internally and externally. So before starting a formal AI education program across all of ACMI, we released an AI product. It's a low-risk product, but we should have had the conversation about risk with ACMI's governance team before releasing it when I look back at it. The first AI integration into ACMI's product was automated video transcription in bulk, allowing visitors to search inside videos. OpenAI's Whisper provided accurate audio to text capabilities, which is then indexed and saved, allowing someone to search for Ballarat, for example, and find all the videos where Ballarat, which is a regional town in Victoria, is mentioned. There are 18, by the way. This early win didn't sell AI for all ACMI staff, but it did allow some staff to see the direct application for ACMI that helped us expand access to our collection. We released this tool on our website and thoroughly documented it on our blog, so it has also showed other museums and galleries the potential value of this new technology. So over the past year, ACMI has been running an initiative to enhance staff understanding of AI through education and practical experimentation, focused on removing one of the barriers of adoption, which is understanding how AI works. So far, the AI journey at ACMI has been as much about people as technology. AI divides people. To further complicate matters, how people feel about AI changes as they learn more about it and engage in debates across the organization about ethics and other use cases. In 2023, ACMI used AI to create a 3D animation video, something we couldn't have produced in-house. Initially, the artist was excited about this experiment, but recently they admitted feeling torn about using ACMI due to moral concerns. So this video has no audio just for this presentation, but I'm going to play this and kind of talk over it for a bit. But this is a video, and this is the only one in this presentation that's built using AI tools. What's interesting about this is after discussing, looking back with the artist and talking about this film the artist's perspective on the use of it and the creation of this has changed a lot. So in particular, they've become more discomforted about copyright, really. So yeah, it's become clear that their discomfort stemmed from a deeper understanding of AI. So as they've learned more about AI and issues like copyright, the staff member is getting more concerned. And this would have been something that you would expect would have been a great use of AI, as they didn't have the skills to do this in-house. So with all that means technology skills and experience, use of technology is coming down to ethics, and everyone must have a choice in that conversation. You can't rely solely on technologists to guide you through adoption of this new technology. The more non-technologists, involved, the better, I would argue. We've certainly seen this at ACMI. We have technology for which you can't rely solely on technologists to guide adoption of. We have shifting perspectives on AI as people learn more about AI, especially its ethical implications. There's perspective shifts, making it vital to involve diverse voices in discussion about AI adoption. To balance this shifting, ACMI has anchored its journey on education. Education is one of ACMI's 4 AI journey principles, and I'll discuss the other 3 shortly. At ACMI, we have a 3-tiered approach to AI to engage staff at different levels across the organization. First, we have the AI ambassadors, which is I'll spend most time today talking about. It's a fortnightly program where a diverse group of staff dive into AI discussions and hands-on experimentation. This helps deepen understanding and uncover new opportunities for AI at ACMI. Next, we have an AI Lunch and Learn, which is a quarterly session open to all staff and board members. It's a space where AI ambassadors can share their insights and experiences, expanding the conversation across the organization. Lastly, our machine learning knowledge base. This resource documents all ongoing AI experience, 28 projects so far, giving everyone access to explore what's happening and contributing to the learning process. This 3-tiered approach ensures that everyone has a chance to engage with AI in a way that fits their role and interest. Driving ACMI's 3-tier approach are 4 key principles: educate, experiment, debate, and deliberate. We've covered educate and experiment, so let's focus on debate and deliberate. Debate is about tackling the hard conversations: job displacement, copyright concerns, data sovereignty, AI unpredictability, environmental impacts, and more. These are difficult topics, and the discussions can be heated, but they are necessary. I think debate is sometimes to be honest, is a bit more of arguing than debating, but it's all just because a lot of people feel very passionate about a lot of these things, but it's very productive. So after debate comes deliberation and taking time to reflect and think critically about what was discussed before making any decisions. These principles reflect ACMI's values. When adopting AI, choose principles that align with your organization's values and ensure that all voices are heard in the process. The AI Ambassadors Program is key to fostering continuous learning, experimentation, and debate across all departments. With regular meetings, staff can explore AI applications in their roles. At ACMI, the group includes about 20 members, with typical attendance around a dozen. One important voice consistently represented is visitor experience, offering invaluable insights into how visitors perceive and respond to AI in our programs. And just as important as it is to include pro-AI staff and the AI curious, I feel it's most important to include staff that are anti-AI. Do not try to convert these team members, make them feel safe, and let them talk about their concerns and fears. Listen to them and acknowledge them, and consider these voices when making policies. While not all departments attend regularly, setting aside this time to focus on AI is crucial to shaping its use at ACMI. And I acknowledge that AI Ambassadors is not a good name for the group, and we're working on changing that name. The name AI Ambassadors itself can be a barrier. It inherently implies a pro-AI stance, which may discourage some staff from joining or speaking up, especially those who may be more skeptical about AI. We're in the process of changing the group's name because the goal here isn't necessarily AI adoption, it's AI education. We want to help everyone understand how it works regardless of their stance. It's important that all perspectives are represented, particularly those that challenge us and bring us up the difficult questions. These voices help us stay grounded and ensure that we're addressing the broader concerns and ethical issues that come with AI. And this journey includes everyone, not just those who are enthusiastic about AI. At a higher level, we focus our AI Ambassador sessions on 3 core areas, and that's how AI works, how ACMI should use AI, and the challenges we face along the way. We've covered a range of topics from mechanics of AI, like transformers and diffusion models, to ethical considerations around AI usage in exhibitions. Initially, sessions were heavily structured with formal presentations, homework assignments, and product reviews, but this approach left little room for discussion and became a time burden. It was clear we needed a shift. Now meetings are more interactive, focus on specific areas, while allowing plenty of time for open discussions, making the sessions more engaging for everyone. So shown here are some of the topics we covered early on. And then building on the foundation from early AI Ambassador sessions, we've started getting a little more nuanced and a lot more interesting and engaging. This list here is some of the more memorable sessions from the second half of last year. And I'll go into a few of these in detail in a minute. At ACMI, we found the rotating presenter approach works best. So we have 3 presenters right now, and each session is led by one of those. We have one whose focus is on ethics and usage, which focuses on AI societal impacts like bias, copyright, and responsible use. We have a non-technical presenter who demonstrates experiments that allow hands-on testing, making AI accessible to all staff. This is using kind of no-code solutions and no-code products to build AI tools. And then we have a more technical one, which dives into how AI works, explaining machine learning fundamentals. We also share code, talk through code here, and let people kind of see kind of behind the scenes and how it works, because I think that's one of our really helpful things in demystifying it. We've also simplified the structure by removing homework and dedicating 15 to 30 minutes to open discussion. This has led more balanced sessions, greater participation, and deeper conversations about AI. I was very ambitious with the initial plans, and there was going to be homework assignments. People were going to come back to every meeting lots of prepared, but the reality is we've all got full-time jobs and we're all very busy. So we've kind of pivoted this to kind of do more of it in the meeting. And it's been very beneficial. Some AI ambassadors have mentioned that the meetings don't always feel productive. Given that we meet 26 times a year, trying to make every section highly productive can be a barrier in itself. I want to remind everyone, I need to remind, and I do remind everyone, that it's a long-term journey, and showing up consistently, setting aside time to think and talk about AI is part of the work. The value lies in the regular commitment, the experimentation, and even in the failed experiments. These sessions are not just about achieving results, they're about creating space for discussion, debate, and reflection. It's in the ongoing dialogue that we really advance our understanding and approach for AI. A meeting isn't a failure just because it doesn't produce a concrete outcome. The process of engagement is what matters. So through regular discussions at AI, there's been a few key statements that have resonated well with the group, which I will share. These are repeated often, easy to remember, and powerful statements and anecdotes to always keep in mind. The first one is Gen AI is not magic, it's maths. Gen AI like text to image, text to video, text to text may seem magical, but it's not. It's statistical prediction. Yes, it's very complicated, unpredictable, and viewed as a black box by even those who created it due to the sheer size, but it is statistical prediction. I recommend watching talks by Eric Salvaggio to demonstrate this. Eric's an artist whose practice is based on understanding how Gen AI works, in particular diffusion models, and he's very good at explaining how it works and demonstrating it. And this leads to another key statement, which is an LLM is a language model, not a knowledge model. There are lots of discussions about how AI does not know anything. And while that's correct, I really like this statement, which I have adopted from my talk by Stanford University. I feel it supports this first statement very well. And finally, regarding usage, my day one advice to staff about AI usage is assume what you put into AI tool will end up on the internet. I'm certainly not saying that it will. The most policies I've seen around AI usage recently, especially with government agencies, instruct staff to not provide sensitive or business information to these tools. And the statement here helps staff understand that and explain why it's a risk. A few examples of some sessions, the material we covered and how it helped us deepen our understanding of AI. Personally, one of the most important sessions we had was called I Am the Golden Gate Bridge. And in this session, we explored why LLMs like Claude and ChatGPT are often described as black boxes. We listened to a 5-minute excerpt on a podcast covering a paper Anthropic had published, and then we had a structured discussion about it. So I'm not going to go deep into this paper now, but what Anthropic's trying to do is understand what parts of an LLM are stimulated during certain inputs. And they asked their large language model a number of questions about the Golden Gate Bridge, saw where in the neural network what part of the neural network was stimulated, and then they overemphasized that part of the neural network and asked it other questions. This led to when asking "Who are you?" the Gen AI tool responded, "I am the Golden Gate Bridge." And what's exciting about this is honestly, it's like if you can potentially find where bias might be in the underlying LLM, potentially those could be de-emphasized, stuff like that. So there's some really interesting applications here. But the session personally was important because it reminded us as wow, AI can be simplified as a large statistical predictors. And I find that that's common to try to help understand it. Its scale and complexity make it a black box to even those who build the models. The unpredictability doesn't necessarily mean we can't use the models, but it does mean we need better tools to interpret them. And this also informs us how we test AI tools. And we'll say testing AI tools is also something that we often discuss because it's very difficult because of the unpredictable nature of outputs. The more recent AI ambassador meeting was an experiment using Notebook LM to create a podcast about ICIP and data sovereignty. This meeting was right after I attended the Fantastic Futures Conference, which was hosted at NFSA in Canberra, Australia. At Fantastic Futures, I was very fortunate to hear Peter Lucas-Jones talk. I assume many of you know Peter Lucas-Jones' work as he presented at NDF 23. After the conference, I wanted to share that talk with the AI Ambassadors Group and discuss the talk considering some recently circulated ICIP-related papers at ACMI. And so as a way to kind of put together all of these works, the exercise that we did live in the group was we took the Peter Lucas-Jones talk from NDF 23, which is on YouTube, and the recent paper on ICIP called The New Protectionism, which is listed on the slide, as well as another article called LLMs or Language, and then yeah, I guess, and then ran the tool to kind of build us a podcast. The podcast here was really meant to kind of help us listen to it and educate us on these and kind of see similarities between Peter Lucas-Jones talks and some other ICIP literature. But what came out was a really intriguing discussion about how especially kind of more sensitive and nuanced information and data can be misrepresented and kind of really distastefully presented, because the output of this was a podcast by two people, which were clearly American, discussing very kind of sensitive and topical issues about data sovereignty and indigenous communities' intellectual property. So having these kind of like bubbly, very, very white, very American, generic voices talking about this stuff just kind of really rubbed everyone in the group the wrong way. And so while the tool itself did a pretty good job of creating a podcast based off of this, it really made us realize that this is not necessarily the type of tool that you would want to do to that. But through listening to the podcast, it also did help us kind of understand some of the topics that were discussed. Our AI Ambassador Group has made some great progress so far. First, we've seen an increase in understanding of how AI works across the group. AI ambassadors are now using AI tools more regularly in their daily tasks, which shows a growing understanding of how to effectively use this technology. And one of the most important developments is that the discussion around AI ethics and usage have become more nuanced. This has allowed us to approach AI with more thoughtful and informed perspectives. In reflecting on the AI Ambassador Program, we've learned some valuable lessons. First, including diverse non-technical perspectives as essential. Voices from across the organization are key. Second, consistent engagement is crucial. Regular meetings create space to revisit topics as both AI and opinions about it evolve. We also found that allowing time for open discussion is critical. I mentioned early on we rushed this, but we've adopted that so there's plenty of room for debate. And finally, time commitment is a big factor, and so we've reduced the workload to make participation more manageable for everyone. So the other two I'm going to kind of quickly go over just so there's plenty of time for some questions. But the AI Lunch and Learn series is another key part of ACMI's education strategy, and this is held 4 times a year. These sessions provide an informal space for staff and board members interested in AI but unable to commit to bi-weekly or fortnightly ambassador meetings. With an average attendance of 41 staff per session, these meetings have become a great platform for AI ambassadors to share their work and discuss AI topics with the wider team. We've covered topics from how AI works to ethical frameworks to experimentation to experimental tool demonstration. For organizations starting their journey on AI, I highly recommend similar low commitment sessions to keep AI on everyone's radar and offer your AI champions a platform to share their knowledge. One example here, we used an AI Lunch and Learn to demonstrate a collections chat. And we actually brought up the code for this, kind of talked people through it, explained where AI was used and where it wasn't used. We talked about responsible ways to use ACMI's own data in this statement, in which that did not compromise or have the data leave our network. So we had a lot of so we could responsibly use that information in an AI tool. And then we opened up the floor and had staff yell out kind of things to ask the chatbot. And as is very common, the conversation ended in discussions about ethics and usage. Now, I will say that following the meeting, and not necessarily because of this meeting, but we have not released the collections chat. And part of it I feel like it was a lot of it because of the feedback that we received from all staff on this. In our AI Lunch and Learn series, we've learned a few key things. First, balancing time equally between presentation and discussion helps keep sessions, excuse me, helps keep the sessions interactive and engaging. Second, pairing explanations with live demonstrations make the tech easier to understand. And finally, clear, concise explanations showing the application code where necessary demystifies AI, making it accessible to everyone. The third part of our approach to AI is our machine learning knowledge base, and this is a shared resource at ACMI, allowing all staff to explore current AI experiments and contribute to the learning process. Their central repository ensures everyone from technical to non-technical staff has access to ongoing AI projects, fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing across the organization. Machine learning knowledge base has been a valuable tool for sharing AI experiments with all staff, helps us keep staff informed. Open access encourages participation, and it allows us a place to explain the purpose, as it's important to explain why these experiments matter. When staff see how AI tools can be applied to their work, they're more likely to be engaged and contribute ideas. Overall, all of these programs and initiatives have been very rewarding. The technologists may still be building the tools for now, but staff across ACMI have a better understanding of how it's built and why it works the way that it does. Some of the key takeaways from the organization for other organizations is to create a tiered AI education program, implement a structured approach to meet varying levels of staff engagement, ensuring everyone can learn about AI regardless of their technical background. Promote hands-on experimentation, encourage staff to experiment with AI tools to build confidence and discover practical applications for their roles. Now, if you have policies preventing this or need policies to allow this, I'm happy to discuss. This is something that ACMI has struggled with as well. But at ACMI, we've leveraged existing risk frameworks, and we approach AI usage from risk and governance perspective rather than one that is policy-based. We choose this method because of the speed in which the technology is developing. Another key takeaway is to facilitate ethical AI discussions. You provide space for staff to debate the ethical implications of AI to align its use with your organization's value and missions. Engage multiple departments, involving staff from all areas of your organization, not just your teams. And finally, build AI capacity. So invest in education to equip staff with the skills for long-term AI integration, driving both innovation and experimentation. AI tools are advancing quickly, so the sooner you start educating your organization, the better prepared they'll be to understand and leverage AI for your specific needs. So with that, I'm going to, So Nick, pass it over to you. Do you want to get some questions?
Thanks, Jeff. That was really great. I am also the Golden Gate Bridge. That was really great. Yeah, and what really strikes me too is that you may not be happy with the name of the group, but there was a comment about the model, the way you've been discussing AI, and emphasizing that it's an ongoing dialogue, the importance of that, especially with staff who are critical, or I think that's really important. And it's you just touched there on the end how fast things are moving. We have to all be involved in these conversations because yeah, it's like it's moving so quickly. Well, let's have some questions.
Those other perspectives help keep everything in check, right? I mean, that's key too. It's like, as a technologist, I can get really excited about this new tech.
Yeah.
Having all these different perspectives, and especially, I mean, working in arts and culture, you've got a lot of them, especially a lot of really wonderful ethical people that are really driven by this. That's why a lot of these people are in this sector. And so leveraging this, especially on this new tech, is super powerful.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of those concerns around copyright, the ethics of how models are trained that almost are, at this point, are really obvious concerns. But it's when you have those different perspectives that other concerns pop up when you start using these tools and see, like, for example, the tone of the podcast that you created. Here's this tool that can do this amazing thing, but then when you experience it, it's like, hang on a second, this doesn't consider the tone of the material. So it's all new concerns come up, and I think that's what's going to direct people to be creative, but also attentive to these things.
Totally.
See if there's some questions coming through. Oh, there's one from Gareth. How does ACMI cope with the incredible rate of change? Yeah, that speed of growth in AI in terms of keeping policies and discussions and experiments current. And you mentioned that kind of risk governance view versus policy. Does that kind of feed into that, how you're keeping up with things?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that we do is like I said, we try not to focus on the tools themselves, but the underlying principles, and kind of how they're built and how they're used, right? Because and the tools are changing so fast, right? And it's honestly, this is the scope, the speed in which it's changing is actually preventing us from actually building a lot of them ourselves, because we know that we could spend a lot of time on this. It's just going to be replaced in 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days by someone better and faster with more compute, right? So having that foundation and understanding how it works, so that when you see a new product, you're like, I think this is actually all that they're doing here, because that's what's happening with a lot of these products is they're piecing together a lot of different kind of AI tools together real quickly. There's not a ton of new compute models just because of the amount of compute that takes. So having that foundation and understanding kind of how things work, so that when you see a new product, you can be like, oh, I bet you that this is what's happening here and here and here. And I know what my data is and what's important to us. So I'm a bit hesitant for it, or I'm open to that, and let's just run it on our servers, or kind of really just being able to prepare you for those decisions.
Yeah, it's kind of coming from that, again, the fundamental. It's like, what are the applications? Because you've been experimenting with, like, we can use this tool or this tool, but 6 months from now, something is doing it in a more creative way. But then and there's a question here from Claudia from Plant and Food Research that's kind of related to that. It said, thank you for sharing. How do you keep track across the organization on what AI tools are evaluated, and how do you manage subscriptions? So you've got all these tools coming out at lightning speed. You've got the risk and policies, and like, this is a challenge that I know I faced in my organization. It's even getting to use the tools. Is it kind of like a sandbox policy where you're using these tools in a safe place to experiment? And how do you keep track of all that?
Well, there's lots of different experimentation. For one, we have a pretty open policy because it's part of our remit, right? For people trying it and using it and experimenting with it. Now, the first thing I always say was that third item, and just my takeaway is, like, assume whatever you put in there is going to be on the internet, right? As long as you kind of enter it with that kind of perspective and understand, don't put anything sensitive in here, then I think that's a first step. And I feel pretty comfortable with people giving it a go. Also, there's tons of, even the tools themselves now say, hey, these outputs can be wrong. So I think there's there's an understanding there that people are evaluating these things to see if they're actually working right, and that they need to be really critical about what comes out of them, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I haven't really talked about today is, ACMI as an organization has a very high tech literacy. Like our CEO is a formal chief technology officer, right? Like we have technology is really kind of embedded into our culture. Um, and there is a lot of work. I didn't really go into it in the presentation today, but there's a lot of kind of foundational work that helps organizations like ACMI kind of be a little bit more agile with these things. And one of them, which we kind of talked about, is like the really strong governance and risk perspective. Like one of the first things that we did, rather than spend time getting a policy together, because honestly, I tried drafting it and it was a miserable fail. Um, was let's look at this at, what is our biggest risk with this? Let's define that. Let's get that across senior leadership and the board so everyone can be across that. What ways can we do to mitigate that? And spoiler alert, like this training, the AI ambassadors group itself is one of the best ways to kind of to help reduce that. But Nick, I might have gone off the question. So
No,
but
I was thinking also about you mentioned something about the kind of digital literacy at your organization. Of course, it's not the same level everywhere, but that's that thing again of that importance of bringing everyone along for the discussions and encouraging. That's one thing I've been doing with people, because I've been really deep into this stuff as well. You mentioned Eric Salvaggio, and I took his online course. I found that really helpful in kind of demystifying how things work. But then a lot of my colleagues don't have the time or patience or interest in that sort of level. So I'm just like kind of try it out, promoting that, just using it. So even at that level of technical expertise, it's important for people to feel like encouraged. But I had a question about you mentioned the more people learn about it. Oh no,
so
go ahead.
one last thing, on the software side, like I said, we don't have we don't spend a lot of money on software for this. We have some servers that we run our own models on that we can experiment
Okay.
with. That's what we just are doing. We don't even have GPUs. We have CPUs that are repurposed. It's super slow. Um, but it still allows us to do plenty of experimentation. For users, for all of staff, we encourage them to just try it, the free tools, because there's tons of them out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much free
And
stuff
we
out
don't
there.
we haven't even purchased Copilot yet, because honestly, like I haven't really seen a lot of really wow use cases there. Um, so and we have two shared OpenAI ChatGPT accounts. We have one Anthropic account that we use for research and testing. So we don't have, I
Okay.
guess here is like we're not spending a lot of money on software for this. So
Right.
yeah.
And the values in those experiments and then talking about it. Got a few other questions from people. Let me just lost my place. Before you set up the program, did you already have a dynamic at Acme of open forums? Yeah, this is kind of a comment Mike made about this structure of the ambassadors program. Did you have something just for general innovation with colleagues that lunchtime
You know, there
series?
was there's an organization called, I think it's called We Are Museums, that ran, honestly, like Acme attended as a part of a blockchain kind of accelerator.
Yeah.
That was a huge inspiration for this. So we did that in 2022. That was a big inspiration. I was like, that was super powerful. We ended up not building anything because we couldn't really figure out a good use case. Um, but the education was really what came out of it. That was like, wow, that's super powerful. And then there's been a ton of work. I think of Paula Bray, her name comes to mind immediately, talking about labs in the sector. And there's a strong emphasis on labs and experimentation of that. That's part of the Acme culture, and a lot of the staff here have used that. So also borrowing a lot from labs. And I think there's a wonderful talk at the FACTS Symposium from 2024 about labs, which I might recommend that people check out. So those were kind of the two things that really inspired the creation of this group.
Right. And this is a good question from Fiona. Do you have any recommendations of what to sign up for notifications to keep a bridge of new and emerging tools? That's That's a good question. I know we've got Cara Kennedy in New Zealand, who's worked with NDF, presented recently, does a good newsletter. There's a few podcasts I listen to. Are there anything in that vein that you would recommend?
Yeah, the podcast is kind of where I go. It takes a lot of time. I'm trying to think of like I use one called the AI Daily Brief, and it's literally like a
Yeah,
daily thing, right?
yeah,
But you listen to the first 15 minutes of that, and it kind of gives you a heads up of what's going on.
yeah,
Um, and within 3 minutes, you can tell if anything actually meaty happened. But that alone is overwhelming. And I'm talking about like part of the hardest thing with this group is I'm leading it and is me having time to do all of the education and honestly fortnightly is kind of crazy too, right? I've got to watch all these podcasts, stay up to date. I still have all my BAU tasks, which are a lot, and then I have to develop these things. And um, so not saying not saying don't do it, but like just like acknowledge that. And so before you enter into these
yeah,
things, and that's why we're really dynamic in trying new things and trying to figure out how to ways to kind of remove blockers. Like honestly, for this year, I'm thinking maybe this year, maybe once a month for AI ambassadors is solid now that we kind of have this down the foundation. Um, but yeah, because it's so much work to stay up to date to keep everyone across it. But honestly, the AI ambassadors themselves all kind of are listening and keeping out for stuff as well. So any
yeah,
meeting that we have, the first 10, 15 minutes could easily just be talking about kind of developments and new stuff that's come out.
yeah. Just in terms of that, approach to talking about it within your organization, do you have any advice for smaller organizations? Talk about that tech savvy level of digital literacy. What's a good place to start if you don't have someone like Jeff Williams with that knowledge to kind of start those conversations?
So I look at some of the bigger organizations that are releasing things. I tell people like you can kind of learn through other people's experiments, especially the ones that are public. Like, right. So like our searching inside videos, which is on the internet. It's online. You can go and you can search for videos. You can see an experiment and kind of play around with and kind of understand what building that kind of tool might do for your organization. There's a huge open source community on it, sort of exposing a lot of this code on there. But to be honest, like even my eyes glaze over when I look at code. So like there's all often kind of supporting blogs
Mm,
out there, well, that kind of keep people up to date. Artists are really amazing too. Like we
yeah,
talked about Eric, there's a number of and we talked about the artists who did distributed consciousness. There's a number of artists that are really kind of pushing the boundaries in this, and hearing them talk is super powerful as well.
yeah,
It's also yeah, yeah. So my recommendation is just to leverage kind of what some of the larger organizations are doing to kind of help experiment and play around with. Also kind of partner with them. Like we just finished a project with the State Library of Victoria where we helped them kind of evaluate the process for and that was just a small little project that we worked together, get a paper out of it. So if you've got, especially if you've got some really sensitive or really kind of interesting data, but even if you like just talking to others as well, there's a strong community and a lot of people want to help.
it's kind of just extending that AI ambassadors to the wider community. I think there is a community of people out there to Papa are doing some experiments and sharing that on their blog. You mentioned the thing about artists that's really interesting is you kind of have these creative approaches to these tools coming from that creative direction first, which I think was probably unexpected when you talked about AI kind of use cases 10 years ago. And it's really cool to see artists doing a lot of the experimentation. Um, yeah, some really good advice. I don't know if we have
Yeah.
any other questions, but I know we're just over time, so I don't want to it's everyone's lunch hour. I just wanted to thank you again for sharing this talk, and we had a lot of interest today. So it was really great. We've recorded this session as well, and just let everyone know that we'll email out the links in the next few days. And also to encourage everyone, if you haven't already, please sign up for the NDF newsletter and check out the website, because the NDF 25 conference is coming up this year in May. So used to saying next year in May, but we are in the next year, which is now this year, NDF 25. So check out on the website. And I think we've got some links in the chat that were mentioned, so please check those out.
Yeah, and if there are any, Nick, if there are any further questions, they can flick them to you, or you can pass them on to me, or they can email me direct. I'm
that's great.
very open to talking to people about this kind of stuff. If your organization is really interested in doing this, I'm happy to meet with your organization and kind of talk you through maybe some specifics. Yeah, so we feel sure it's been really powerful, and I love talking about it and helping others with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we could talk about this. I could go a few more hours. I've got a bunch more questions for you, but I think we'll leave it there for the session. And yeah, thank you so much, Jeff.